Team 3, do you have all the team members that will be participating this morning?
I believe so. John had a class that was running a bit late, so
Okay. Perfect.
He's going to try to jump in if that finishes up, and otherwise, but I think we're good to get started.
Okay, excellent. Well, I want to introduce our judges on the panel this morning. This is our third and final panel. We have Lena Andrews, who's a director of real estate development and Action Housing. We have Richard Clark, who's chief analytics officer at Highmark Health. We have Andy Halfhill. Everyone knows Andy. You've been working with him for weeks now. Homeless housing analytics manager for DHS. And then Ken Steiner, who's the principal of New Normal Advisors, a Katz graduate and long time friend of Katz. And what we like for the students to do is just briefly introduce yourself, your name, and your program of study. And then for somebody to explain to the judges what your high impact question was and how that aligns to your solution focus. And then we'll hand it over to the judges. So over to you.
Sure, I can start. My name is Jake Bowles. I am in the professional MBA program, concentrating on finance and business analytics. I'll be graduating here in May, and I work for Federated Investors in data engineering in our investment management department. And when I'm not doing work or schoolwork or challenges like this, I like to work on my house that I bought last year and pretty much anything outdoors, hiking, mountain biking, things like that.
I can go for the next one.
No problem.
I'm
go for it.
Yuxing, and currently it's my second semester in Katz. I'm concentrating on the marketing science and business analytics programs. Before I joined Katz, I was a digital marketing manager in a consumer hardware company. Yes. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Zehui, and this is my first semester at Pitts, and I'm enrolled in Master of Science, Management of Information System, and I had my undergrad degree at Katz as well. Yeah, and Jake, do you want to? Continue?
So for our high impact question, we felt that the rapid rehousing specific, concentrating on that and looking into how can we improve the performance of the rapid rehousing program was going to have a high impact, because we did additional research. We found that that's a program that has been found to be not only effective but also cost effective, and that the department has been shifting resources into rapid rehousing programs previously. So since there's been a financial and operational shift towards those programs, how can we make those more effective? And so we wanted to dig into each sort of part of the journey on rapid rehousing and come up with a way to maybe improve each step of the way so that Allegheny County can meet the benchmarks that they're aiming to hit in the rapid rehousing programs.
Great. So at this point, we would like to hand it over to the judges.
I'll start. First of all, I very much enjoyed your presentation, and your slides. They're right on top. I've got a couple questions. I thought you came up with some. You actually came up with some suggestions and so on with regards to the financial end as far as identifying funds. What the problem was as far as what the hourly rate or annual income was for people who were homeless, that sort of thing. And you also came up with a suggestion for how you're going to fund this, which I thought was very good and unique. And you mentioned possibly tax credits. Giving tax credits for the company for companies for helping out with this situation. And I was just curious, was there any discussion about when government gives tax credits to one group or one entity, that means less revenue, which means something else has to come up short. They have to get that, they have to get that revenue for someplace else. And I'm just asking, did you have any discussions about that? Like, if we give these companies tax credits, how is the government entities, whichever one is going to give the credit, going to make up the difference? Was that any part of the conversation?
We did touch on that. I think what we wanted to look at was kind of the risks to this approach as a whole. And so a few of the factors we were thinking of were, number one, for some companies, a tax credit or a financial incentive is not going to be enough to, want to get on board. It's just the nature of it. Some companies will be incentivized by that and some wouldn't, but we didn't, dive too deep into that, but I think that was another risk that we saw potentially happening, like you said, is if the government's losing this revenue from the tax credits, that's another piece. It'll have to be made up somewhere else, like you said. And so we didn't highlight that in the slides, but I do think that's a very valid risk, potentially for a program like this.
Thank you.
Sorry, and I also want to add a point on that, because I'm thinking this as a virtuous cycle. So let's think this through. First, if we get more household resources available there, and the homeless rate, like we will get more homeless people in stable housing and stable jobs. And this will also make the employment rate higher, which in turn the company can earn more. And I guess there are some other way that we can make it up to this part of tax deduction, because there are more people working and the system, the economy can be boosted by these people. Yeah,
okay.
This is one of my thoughts.
Good.
So I wanted to echo what Kim said and just say that you all did a nice job and just say that this challenge, right, of trying to optimize the rapid rehousing program and make it work as efficiently as possible and sort of have people move through that program and exit to stable housing without returning to the homeless situation. That is probably one of the biggest challenges that the Department of Human Services, homeless services faces right now, because there's a lot more demand for that service than we're able to provide. And of course, we're limited on our funding to be able to provide that service too. So, and certainly want to acknowledge that what you found about not quite achieving the benchmarks that we had set for ourselves. So like kind of to that point, I just wondered if you all had seen anything in the data or had thought about possible reasons why those benchmarks may not maybe not being met, and maybe how that would factor into your proposed solution.
A few things that jumped out to us were, at least from our understanding, because it is a HUD sponsored or a HUD program, there's a lot of those requirements aren't coming specifically from Allegheny County. It's coming from HUD and sort of higher powers, and you're limited in your ability to adjust those requirements and to allow more people to enter. So that was one thing that we noticed, definitely, especially the income level. So, to only be eligible if you're at 30% of the median income in the area, and if you go above that, you're no longer eligible. We thought that was really stood out to us, because let's say you go up, you pass that threshold to 40% or something like that, there's still a really good chance it's going to be very difficult for you to afford permanent housing, but then you're losing this resource that you were really dependent on. So those were a couple of the things that we saw as big challenges for the benchmarks. But again, that's difficult because it's something that Allegheny County doesn't have much control over in adjusting those criteria to allow more people to enter the programs.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And we operate a rapid rehousing program at Action Housing for young families. And there are people who don't qualify that we feel definitely should, just because they're right above this cutoff, which is really unfortunate. So I was wondering if you thought at all about solutions for like creating another program. It's hard. Federal funding is really specific in what you can and cannot fund, but it might be interesting to look at other regions and if they come up with some sort of supplementary system or something for the people that are right above that. Did you look into that at all in your research? Because I think honing in on that's a really sort of shortfall of the program that if we could address it, it could be a lot more impactful.
We actually did look into a few areas, other programs. Los Angeles had kind of an interesting program. I don't know. We dug into it a bit and it didn't seem at this point like it would quite fit very well in Allegheny County. But what they've done is there's a lot of properties that the city owns that were supposed to potentially be utilized for other projects or infrastructure projects that were canceled, and the city bought all these properties and they own them and they're currently just sitting there. So what they've done is in the meantime, they've repurposed them for housing programs in the Los Angeles area. We did kind of dig into that. It didn't seem like that was something that would really benefit Allegheny County too much, but it was definitely an interesting approach in sort of taking these assets that the city has that were just sitting there unused and repurposing them for getting people into, not similar to rapid rehousing. It's not a permanent housing situation, but it's better than being unsheltered or an emergency shelter or something like that. It seemed like the way they were utilizing it was similar to the rapid rehousing program.
Great, thanks.
Hey everyone, great job. Maybe I just have a bit of a high level question that you can answer for me. Like, what was as you're going through this, what did you guys find to be the biggest challenge, and then how did you kind of solve it for yourselves as you were trying to think through this end-to-end solution?
In my opinion, I think, and I don't know if you guys agree, when we first started, it's a very, very large data set, and it was a bit overwhelming on what we wanted to dive into, because this is a super complicated problem, and obviously it's not, homelessness in general isn't something that can be solved by the four of us in a matter of weeks, but in order to find something that, all right, well, how can we sort of isolate something that we're able to could potentially make an impact and help, but also then I think we started with a few different avenues prior to landing on this one, because we ran into situations where we maybe found a demographic or an issue we wanted to address, and then once we tried to do some analysis on the data for that specific area, the data was incomplete, or we just didn't have the data that we needed in order to address those things in the manner we wanted. So I think that in the way that we kind of came to the rapid rehousing, and also one of the challenges we had through this was, how can we find something that's small enough that we can actually concentrate on it and find a way to improve it, but it's actually going to make an impact here.
Yes, I totally agree with Jack's opinion that for the data set that we received, they are covered for all people in homeless situations or the status. But currently, we want to focus our high impact questions on the rapid rehousing. So what the further data we need is after they receive these programs, what the change or what the status they have. But currently there are not a lot of data set to support that. And when we did another research in other state or other county, we found that they usually use the interview or survey method to collect the performance of the program. So which means that they don't have the long-term data set built up to make sure the organization or the government can keep tracking on the status. So this is the part that I think is what currently the organization is lack of, and so that sometimes we cannot utilize the data to find the meaningful insight for us to improve this program's performance.
Yeah, and I also want to add on that is that we were given the data set, but they're in a couple of worksheets with many columns in there. And some of them I will say it's not, some of them I will say it's not clearly categorized, and also the integrity of data. For example, there are a lot of duplicated unique identifier there, and this may also increase the difficulty for us to manipulate the data. And I see my database management professor is also here. Hi, Professor Ruba. Yeah, and what I've learned from her class is that one of the important things for the database is that first the integrity of that, and also we can split these data into different entities. For example, you can group rapid rehousing program in one entity and others program in different entities. And when you want to retrieve those data, you can search for specific ones and assign a unique identifier for each client. And when we like have these tool in hand, we can quickly know which programs they've participated in and on which aspect they need the most help.
Yeah, thank you. I know it was great to see you call out kind of maintaining data quality and pulling that through in the presentation. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Team 3, and well done, and great energy, enthusiasm that you put into this challenge, and thank you for joining today. So we're going to now have everyone thank Team 3, and then we're going to pull in Team 4. Have a great day, Team 3. We'll see you at 1 o'clock.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Okay, so now we'll be pulling through Team 4. All right. All right. Team 4, I want to go through and introduce our judges here that we have on the panel. We have Lena Andrews, who's the Director of Real Estate Development for Action Housing. We have Richard Clark, who's the Chief Analytics Officer for Highmark Health. We have Andy Halfhill. You all know Andy. You've been working with Andy for a number of weeks, Manager for Housing Analytics at DHS, and Kim Snyder, who's the Principal New Normal Advisors. He's a Katz grad and long-term friend of Katz. So for students, if you could kindly introduce yourself, your name and your program for the judges, and then if one of you can relay your high impact question and how that is being pulled through to your solution focus today, that'd be great. So let's get going.
Hi, my name is Alyssa McCose, and I'm a Master's of Quantitative Economics student.
Hi, my name is Ankita, and I'm an MIS student. Hi, my name is Kara, and I'm also in the Management Information System.
Hi, my name is Erin Kuss, and I'm in the Professional MBA program at Katz.
So can one of the team members please summarize your HIQ question and how that's led into the solution that you've proposed?
Yes, I will go ahead and do that. So our group has focused on the high impact question, how does someone's criminal history interact with their experiences with homelessness? And we really want to help Allegheny County residents break the cyclicality of homelessness and incarceration. And so our solution is to create a predictive algorithm engine called ORB, because it optimizes existing resources better. And the ORB will keep track of incarcerated individuals and their background information, such as past experiences with homelessness, mental health, or any barriers of access to services. And so this information will be used in the algorithm to determine what resources will best help that particular individual upon release from jail. And this engine will have a list of current resources and programs that currently exist within Allegheny County to match up to the needs of these individuals. So having access to and knowledge of these resources will really help these individuals to be better prepared for life after incarceration, and will give them a better chance of breaking that homelessness and jail cycle.
Great summary, Alyssa. And you know, at this point, we'd like to pass it over to the judges to ask some questions or provide feedback.
Hey guys, this is Richard. Maybe let me just start. A quick question. Love the concept of the ORB, the kind of this closed loop system. You guys talked about, at least my kind of understanding as I was looking through the presentation, was a lot on the kind of identification of need, if you will, and kind of the prediction around that. Totally get it. Great. Did you guys talk a lot of at all about it? Maybe talk to me about the closed loop of that to kind of continue to learn what is actually working to kind of adjust the recommendations over time.
Yeah, that's a really great question, Richard. And I think that's going to be something that we would have to kind of leverage this tool to continuously track information and collect data, so that we can better anticipate what resources are working, so that the demand could be spread over the most effective programs and whatnot. But yeah, I absolutely think that that's something down the road that the tool would have to be able to anticipate and predict. That's a really great question. Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'll jump in. I think you guys did a really great job. I think the way that you explained the problem from the beginning was really great. I think the solution you came up with was really innovative. I guess my one question would be, there are a number of sort of resource directories that exist in the community. So I'm thinking of like 211 and Big Berg and options like that, which help connect people to resources. So I was wondering if you could explain a bit about how your solution might be different from those. More specifically, when you talk about finding the best resource for an individual, is it based on sort of eligibility, or is it based on some sort of predictive element of success, or what's found to be successful for those individuals?
Yeah, so I think one differentiator with this particular solution is that you know, we're not relying on the people who need the resources to use this tool to find them. This tool will be utilized by facilities such as a jail to kind of put those in front of the people who need them. So I think one barrier that folks might have is that you have to know about those different hubs and those different repositories that are out there to utilize them. This kind of takes that factor away because it's going to be put in front of the people who need them when they need them. And I'll let other team members chime in on that if anybody else has anything else to add.
Can you able to hear me? Hello.
It's a little
Yeah,
quiet, but we can hear you.
Yeah.
I just want to say this is Ken Woodcock. I've just joined. Sorry to being a bit late, but I was invited to join this.
We're happy you're here, Ken. Thank you.
Yeah, as Erin mentioned, it's not, I mean, the risk score index that we have come up with, an idea. So even that would also be a part of decision making, like which client ID would be assigned to which sort of program, so that like it applies effectively to him to minimize his risk score index. And like basically in a very short period of time, we really want him to go out of homelessness program. I mean to say, like, we are going to minimize his stay period.
I would also like to add something on that. So sometimes it's very difficult to identify which people need what kind of housing program or what kind of resources, right? So the risk score will help us to better identify, okay, if that person is between 80 to 100, 80 to 90% of risk score, then this is the best program that will help that person to break the cycle.
I also want to add something. Our is first step is going to identify the people who need, and also identify the reasons behind this person's problem. Then we use our cost program to identify the risk factor of his problem. Then we use the prescriptive model to calculate the cost and the resource planning. Then we find the minimal cost and the best resource institutes to have that kind of person. So we kind of like personalize the people's reason, problem, and find the reason, and also personalize his solution, which is best to help him, and also find the best institutes to support him.
I have I'm not sure if this is a question exactly, but a major kind of reason for the correlation between homelessness and incarceration is that a lot of housing doesn't accept people with any sort of criminal history. So I wonder if there's some way to link your system. So there are resources that are out there, but there's actually, it's very hard to find housing when you come out of jail, even if you connect people with housing programs. So if there's some way to connect this to the system itself so that, you know, you can make recommendations to housing providers to change their screening criteria so that people coming out of jail actually can find housing, I think that would be really powerful. It's something that we've been working on at Action Housing, and if there was data to back it up, which, I mean, there's anecdotal data, but I think a system like yours could be powerful in making the case for changing the system itself.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's a really great point. And I think the data collection that this tool could provide would be really valuable for issues just like that. Like right now we had a category in the slides, if you remember the repository slide with all of the bubbles, and there was one for reentry programs. So as an initial step, you know, a lot of those will target, you know, okay, people who have incarceration history, how do we maneuver housing for them? So like that's an initial step, but I think going further, if we could provide some data to actually change the system itself, that's going to be the ultimate solution to that particular problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think, just to build on that point, you guys don't need to go deep on this, but I think one of the challenges, again, I think it's a really neat idea. One of the challenges though is obviously it has a risk of just perpetuating some of the issues that it has in terms of those matching recommendations. So Lena, if your point would be that, you know, the criteria to get housing needs to be changed, well, if you're kind of training this model, it would probably be almost respectful of those criteria and just route people that are eligible for it, versus maybe identify the, you know, challenges with some of those criteria, say, no, actually they should be, you know, relaxed or changed or whatever, because there's the next tranche would actually benefit greatly. So that's just, you know, as one's thinking through these types of systems, usually something you got to wrestle with a little bit, because they're, you know, typically trained on historic data that are kind of have those inherent kind of historical elements inside of them.
That's a good suggestion. Thank you, Richard. I think the next step we can work with Lena and to get more information about the housing and how the house program work. Then we can train our model to better fit the housing program and improve the problem, fix the problem and improve how it works.
We actually just changed our criminal history screening that we do at Action Housing, and it changed the number of people we could accept into our units, and it made a big difference for all of those people. So I think making recommendations like that for housing providers as a whole could be really powerful. I
really like, you know, your innovative thoughts and so on. you were concerned, and you suggested that potential resources were students who may volunteer to help wherever they could. I was just curious, is that based on your own feelings? Is that something you would consider, or did you do any kind of questioning of friends on whether they would be interested in helping out and volunteering and doing something that would help the homeless? Or is this something that just needs to be looked at in the future?
We have been given this opportunity to work with the community, and we are like really thankful for this opportunity. And we think that future students, if this kind of collaboration keeps happening, it will really help students because they feel connected to the community, that they are actually doing good for them. They're actually providing something. They have so many things to offer, but they don't get the opportunity to present themselves to contribute. So I think it's a very innovative thing, this challenge, and that really give us an opportunity to give some input, whatever we can do to this community.
Good. Thank you.
Any final questions or comments for Team 4? Team 4, I'd just like to commend you on the ideas you brought together. Your teamwork, too, I think is very apparent. Your ability to collaborate and the strength of your analysis and the orb. I was like naming different things in acronyms. So if there aren't any final questions for Team 4, we're going to see you at 1 o'clock for the awards ceremony. And thank you for being with us today. And see you in a short while. Thank you, Team 4.
Thank you so much.
Sounds good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
All right. So at this point, we're going to bring in Team 5. All right. For Team 5. Okay. Team 5, welcome. Welcome to the final round judging for the Super Analytics Challenge. So I'm going to introduce our judges who we have here today. We have Lena Andrews, who's the Director of Real Estate Development for Action Housing. We also have Richard Clark, who's the Chief Analytics Officer for Highmark Health. We have Andy Halfhill. Everyone knows Andy. You've been working with Andy for a number of weeks now. Of course, Andy's the manager for homeless housing analytics for DHS, Allegheny County. And then Kim Snyder, who's the principal for New Normal Advisors. Kim's a Katz grad, but Kim's also a long-term friend of Katz and has been a great supporter of the school. So what we'd like to have all of you do is introduce yourselves very briefly, state your name and the program that you're in, and then for one of you to lead off by restating your high impact question and then parlaying that into the solution focus that you've brought to today. So over to you.
Thanks so much. My name is Rebecca Farabaugh. I am in the Masters in Marketing Science program.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Gil. I am a part-time MBA student in business analytics.
Hi, everyone. My name is Xingyu Li, and I'm an international student from China, and I'm enrolled in the Marketing and Business Analytics program. This is my first year in this program.
And hi, my name is Tian Xie. I'm also from Marketing Science and Business Analytics program. And for our whole process of doing this, I would like to cover for that. Just as mentioned in our presentation, our first one started with an interview of Ken, who has 5 years of homeless experience and now are helping people to get a more stable life. And what we suggest is that what he suggests to us is that there are a lot of small barriers existing in the life of a homeless person, and they are blocking those individuals from moving to better life. It's better to try to tackle it down step by step. So after secondary research, we have concluded 4 focusing areas: basic life needs like laundry and refrigeration, transportation, communication, and identification. And under the model building phase, we were also following the idea to see what are the factors that are affecting a homeless person from moving to a better life. And we found that public benefit plays an important role in it. It was also from the phase that we noticed it would be optimal if the data sets could include more specific records and a more standardized system. And moving from what we did, we came up with a possible solution for DHS to try to solve those small barriers in a relatively lower cost. And that would be the basic program that we have presented in the video, which would be bringing accessible service into communities. And for our HIMAC question, we are just like trying to see what are the barriers that are affecting people from moving to a more stable life, and how do we try to like tackle them down with data modeling things.
Thank you. Yeah. So now we'll pass it over to our judges to provide feedback and ask questions.
Great. I want to start with a comment, and I loved that you talked to someone who actually had experienced homelessness. That was a really powerful way to start your video. It's so important to talk with the people that we're serving. So thank you for doing that. And for me, that was really powerful and showed you were coming from a place that's trying to empathize with this population. And I really like the pop-up service center idea. I've seen similar barriers with transportation and people having trouble. I did think your budget seemed a little optimistic for the program, and I was wondering if you had ideas of how to get the word out to people, sort of about outreach. I know a lot of you have a marketing background, so I think that would be the key thing of making that program successful, is making sure that people knew about it. And a lot of the people you're trying to reach are not kind of tapped into typical internet, social media outlets. So if you have any ideas for that, I'd be interested in hearing them.
Sure. This is Rebecca. I can at least address that initially and see if any of my teammates want to jump in too. When I was thinking about that, about how we would get the word out, I was thinking that most of that, the most effective way would probably be, again, to partner with the organizations who are already in those communities, where we would sort of hope to host those service centers, hoping that they would be able to, in person, more tangibly get the word out to the members of the community who, to your point, we couldn't necessarily contact by mail or phone or internet, as those are parts of the barriers that exist. So I was sort of thinking of it from a community connection sort of angle.
I too would like to congratulate Team 5, having somebody who can give testimony on what it's really like to be homeless and the impact of stuff was very innovative and that sort of thing. And you can probably tell by the color of my hair, homeless vets are an important issue for me, and something that I think, all the teams are doing great. You've got to start, kids and families and stuff like that. But I think we always have to remember our veterans. I also liked your pop-up centers and that sort of thing. I don't know how that would be handled or managed and stuff, but I thought that was a unique idea too. So I really don't have any questions. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you so much.
I'll continue on the theme. I thought it was a great way to start the video, and definitely very powerful. I apologize if I missed it. You guys probably hit it in the video, but I just want to make sure I'm tracking. In terms of using data to kind of design elements, it seemed like it was both what services are offered and where they are from where it goes. And did I get that right, or is it more for one, more for the other? How do you think about data informing this idea?
Thing do you want to take that one, since you spoke about the data modeling piece?
Sure. We are using the data that target on the return clients, means they have several records on our data set, and we use that data set to do the model and the prediction thing, use the regression, use the logistic regression, and we apply this model to people who have the single records and make the predict how the improvement will change in the future.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think our goal with the data model was largely, as Singh just said, really looking at, can we use this as a way to predict who may be ready to move on to more stable housing without increasing their risk of return to homelessness, by sort of treating it as, it's almost like a checklist of, does this person have these basic needs covered, knowing that a person who has those basic needs met, we have seen in the data that they will have a more successful transition into improvement in their housing situation. So I think from the data model perspective, that was our outlook. And then, yeah, to your point about the sort of who and the where, I think a lot of our secondary research looked at that. So in the video, we really relied on previous DHS reports that have identified, where are those areas with the highest need who aren't served by transportation. So we can deduct from that, those folks, while there are really great services out there, those folks may have a more difficult time than even other members in vulnerable populations accessing existing services. So we sort of relied on that secondary data to guide the where.
Thank you.
So I'll continue the congratulations on appreciating your approach and the good work that you did. My question is maybe kind of simple, but you made the conclusion, it's probably obvious to all of us that when people are receiving public benefits, then they do better with housing stability. But I wondered if you could say more about that and like, in what ways, did you see fewer returns to homelessness, or the people had more success? And the reason I say that is I think if you were able to articulate that, it might make a better sales pitch in terms of why this intervention is important and can be successful.
Yeah, Andy, I can talk a little bit about that. It did, at least to us, it did appear kind of like well, obviously, if you have food and water and everything, you'd be a little bit better off. What we were trying, I guess, ultimately to prove, and that's kind of what Cheng Yu was sort of mentioning, is these people who are struggling to move on. While some of the homeless people, perhaps in their first instance of being homeless, can figure their situation out and essentially have success moving on, we wanted to essentially prove that even if some individuals have an ID or are missing perhaps ways to wash their clothes, then perhaps investing in more housing or increasing like Section 8 opportunities for individuals, that may not have so much effect on people who just keep falling down the slide. So I guess our approach, and I know it seems a little bit obvious, but is to see if we could, I guess, pick one area to focus on the people who keep struggling. Is it transportation? Is it getting clothes washed? Is it getting internet service? Whatever the case may be. And perhaps having that lead their way forward, and instead of maybe trying to build more housing, although that's certainly important, but maybe allocating some more of our efforts would be, the return would be a little bit more significant.
Great, that's really helpful. One other quick comment, I guess, just to say that, I think you all notice that people experience homelessness for a number of reasons. People take a lot of different paths to come to that situation, and so I think your presentation helped remind me that we actually don't know a lot about in our data. We don't know a lot about the causes of people experiencing homelessness. The data that we provided to you is the data that we collect, and that's based on sort of HUD's standards. And so we actually don't ask clients generally, at least when they're entering programs, why they've become homeless. And I think your project helped to show the importance of that and trying to be more proactive with trying to address some of those issues. So well done.
Thank you, Andy. I just wanted to add, I don't think we addressed this in our video, mostly just due to time constraints. As many things as we'd like to talk about, we had to, sort of narrow some of them down. But to your point, one of the things that we talked about as a team was even, helping DHS develop an assessment tool for basic needs, right? So that there's that idea that when folks are coming, to sort of add that into the data that you're tracking already, right? And to sort of start to have those conversations and record it and look at, what are these little obstacles that maybe we see come up again and again and again for certain populations of people. And maybe that could give us even more insight further down the road into our sort of project idea of what are those most critical needs, which are the most predictive of, you know, or which provide the largest barriers to success. So.
Yeah, great. Maybe one other just quick question. It just popped up as we were talking here. I mean, your solution was obviously all about bringing solutions for those smart barriers into the communities, right? We're obviously living more and more in a virtual world, as evidenced by what we're doing right now. Any dialogue about maybe some of those services could be virtualized and might make the kind of deployment easier, if you will, instead of having it may hit the budget conversation a little bit that was raised earlier as well.
Yeah, we didn't really discuss that as a group, but you know, I think that's a really interesting point. And you know, maybe that is something that could be worked in as almost like a phase 2 or like a goal of the basic program is, you know, the upfront goal will be connecting people with the communication barrier, like with access around these communication barriers, such as, you know, providing cell phones through these cell phone company partners that provide like the Lifeline program and things like that. Or, you know, I don't know, maybe someday there's a company we could partner with where they're willing to provide laptops, or, you know, there's internet service programs. So maybe that could be sort of a continuation of this program. Once we get the communication barrier addressed in these specific communities, then that could be sort of a really wonderful way to stay in contact and to maintain those relationships and make sure folks are maintaining access to their basic needs once they have access to the internet or phones, computers, things like that. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Great. So, you know, I see that we're right about at time with Team 5, and you know, Team 5. You know, I'd like to just commend all of you for not only these very solid ideas that you've brought forward, and I'm going to echo the judge's sentiment. You know, humanizing for us sort of the impact of homelessness, and that was something stated early on when we did the pre-challenge, and you really embraced that, which is wonderful. And you know, this concentration on the little things, the trigger points, you know, that you brought forward, you know, through your presentation and the solution. You know, I'd also like to just comment that, you know, observing you as a team, and you know, I see that this team has really displayed great teamwork, and you know, you're good teammates to each other. So there seems to be some very strong chemistry. So that's terrific to see. And you know, 1 o'clock is the awards and recognition ceremony. So we'll see you all back there. So thank you for joining this morning.
Thank you
Well
so
done.
much.
Thank
We'll see you at 1.
Thank you very much.
All right. So now we are bringing in team number 1. Hello, team number 1. I see we're joining. So yeah, just to introduce our judges here, we have a wonderful panel for all of you. As you know, they reviewed your presentation today. So we have Lena Andrews. Lena's the Director of Real Estate Development for Action Housing. We also have Richard Clark, who's the Chief Analytics Officer for Highmark. All of you know Andy Halfhill. You've been working with Andy for a number of weeks now. He's the Manager for Homelessness and Housing Analytics at DHS. And then we have Kim Snyder. Kim is a Katz grad. He's the Principal for New Normal Advisors, and he's been a long-term friend and partner to the Katz Graduate School of Business. So yeah, thank you to our judges for being here, and for all of you for joining. So for the students, what we'd like for you to do is just briefly introduce who you are, your name and your program, and then for one of you to, or two, if you like, to introduce the high impact question that you proposed and how you've pulled that through into your solution focus that you've presented on.
Absolutely. Great to meet all of you that I haven't met before. Nice to see you, those that I have. We're synergy in that, and I'll introduce the team question that, you know, firstly though, thank you all. This has been a great experience. Thank you to the judges today and in the previous session. to the experts, Andy and those others that are on the call and that we've talked to in the past. Curran, thank you so much. I wish we could have engaged more with you. It's just like one day delay for the recordings each time made it tough. But the other experts that we've had, and so the rest of my teammates, I only have Avinash on the call today, but Gianna, Yifeng, and Chun have been amazing to pull together a team that's been 5 completely different backgrounds, experiences has been awesome. So just wanted to start with that. Thank you. I'm Matt Abramson. I'm a professional MBA student graduating in the spring here, and I work full-time at a company called Aspirant as an engagement manager in our strategy and transformation practice. So I'll give a quick overview for what we did and let Avinash introduce himself. Our goal, and when I say all of our goals here, right, is to improve the housing outcomes of Allegheny County residents. And specifically, we understand that capacity is constrained for the system. So when we look to solve capacity constrained systems, we often look to increase resources or efficiency at the bottleneck. And I understand time has already been spent there. County is a nation leader on those efforts, but reducing demand is really the only way to increase the total outcomes in an over-demanded system. So that's where we focused our time, was prevention. We know, though, that it's not an isolated incident for any individual. Preventing homelessness is not simply providing housing, it's a full integrated care that's required. So on an individual basis, what we want to do is understand why someone in adolescence will become or experience homelessness as an adult. So that's where we focus our time to break that cycle. Our high impact question there is predicting which adolescents will experience homelessness without intervention as a young adult, and then prescribing the appropriate interventions. And our modeling proves that the county can't currently do that. So it seems like that's not super insightful, but for our team, where we found this to be extra useful for the county is that you can act on that today. If you know that your prescriptions aren't based on predictions, then you need to go one step back and figure out how we can predict before we, again, start to prescribe. So that tangible insight is where we focused and outlined ways to plug in new data sources, expand the data program, and which programs to pilot that will then be expanded based on those refreshed models. Avinash, you want to introduce yourself too?
Good morning to the esteemed panelists. I'm Sriram Avinash Madikonda. You can call me Avinash. I have 8+ years of professional experience in large MNCs, IBM, Agility Logistics, and TCS, and as a technical manager lead. Before coming to Katz, I was working as the CEO of Josh ERP Limited. And I'm actually very much thankful and grateful for the Katz organizing committee for giving us this wonderful opportunity to interact with eminent personalities, and it has been such a wonderful learning experience. So thank you so much to all the judges in the previous sessions, as well as to the current judges as well, for giving us this opportunity to present ourselves. Thank you so much.
It looks like Gianna's also jumped in. Gianna, if you want to introduce yourself, that's where we're at.
Hey everyone, I'm Gianna Donati. I am a MPIA MBA student, which is Masters in Public and International Affairs. And I'm super excited to listen to all your questions, and hopefully we can answer them all.
Great. So at this point, we're going to turn it over to the judges to provide feedback and ask any questions about their presentation.
Hey everyone, this is Richard. I'll get us kicked off here. First, I appreciate your point that the kind of negative result from the modeling is insight in and of itself, right? I totally agree with you, and something we discuss often. I was intrigued by your kind of notion of near misses, if you will. Can you talk to me a little bit more about like how you came to that, and how you think about what those would kind of enable in terms of better predictions?
Yeah, of course. So this is what having a multidisciplinary team will do. So my background is in chemical engineering, and I've worked as a consultant for health and safety in occupational safety industries. So they heavily use near misses. They don't really focus too much on what are called OSHA reportable incidents. So when someone requires missing a day of work, they of course try and solve that person's issue as soon as possible. but they immediately then turn and focus to what was the unsafe environment that caused that, not actually the specific rebar that fell on that person's, body part, if you will. So hard hats, steel-toe boots aren't actually preventing rebars from falling on people's heads. They are instead creating a system and culture of safety. So high impact, high danger industries, look for those as the cure to really bad adverse events. And so we think about this for homelessness, right? Reducing poverty would be like the #1 way to reduce homelessness. I think we want to be slightly more specific than that, but that's the concept here about trying to understand near misses. So a better metric for who will be homeless in specific points in the future is who's couch surfing or who is about to lose their job, not actually who's already on the street. So that's the concept here for near misses. The last point is that these industries like to look at it like a pyramid. For every 1 fatality, 10 major injuries, 100 minor injuries, 1,000 near misses, and 10,000 incidents of unsafe behavior. And so if we can look for the unsafe behavior and the near misses, it's just a much easier way to identify as opposed to looking for instance, the tents on the street.
I too very much like that analogy. That's because I worked in heavy industry for 35, 40 years. We were constantly looking at near misses, and I really thought it was an appropriate, way of looking at it, from this way, is looking at it from a different perspective. I also liked your analogy with car manufacturing, and a little bit of marketing here. Is it supply, demand, cost? What really is, is it the same issues when you're trying to deal with homelessness, or is it something different? So I thought both of those were very innovative concepts, different ways to look at this and how possibly to come up with solutions for it.
I'll chime in and say I think you guys did a great job. I remember some early conversations and some barriers, and just seeing how you guys from each phase have kind of adjusted and pivoted and landed where you are today. I think that's great. More specific feedback. I like how you brought in information about the YHDP program that's launching and RISE PA, and I thought your visualizations were really good, and your roadmap to success provided a good summary. I think that was a good slide there. I think one of the questions, or the challenges I should say, in terms of predicting who will become homeless is just the lack of data, right? So we essentially have data on people who are experiencing homelessness, but some of these near miss data points that you speak of are just harder for us to get. I think if we are able to predict people who are likelier to become homeless, and I think the next question is when do we intervene, and sort of with what level of service? So I wonder if you all have thought about that, like the time element, or like at what point would you get to a certain risk level that you would you intervene?
Yeah, I love that question. One of the experts that we were talking with was Brian Knight, and another one, Dan Lavalle at UPMC. And both of them kind of came to the conclusion that, let's say we pick someone that's 80% likely of experience homelessness when they turn 18, and we're able to reduce that, but we got it wrong. And they weren't actually going to experience homelessness. They were actually only 20% likely. The worst case there is that we provided mental health services and job training to someone that needed those. So like if we miss here, like the misses that we're talking about, the cost of providing services to someone that didn't need it is so low and kind of a non sequitur, right? Because actually the question then is, we're all here to reduce homelessness, but actually that's itself is just one part of the full cycle of poverty, really. So if we lift someone out of poverty and they weren't going to experience homelessness, that miss there, intervening on the wrong person, I think is not really a bad miss, because we're not talking about providing beds to people that weren't in need of a bed, right? We're talking about providing mental health services to someone who likely would have experienced homelessness without that. So I think, Andy, you're going to run into the issue more so of, we can service 5,000 people with this, and now and are near misses, there's 100,000 people that could use it. And if you miss there, I don't think we're gonna be too sad about it, right?
Yeah, I also liked your presentation, and I'm probably the least predictive analytic oriented person on this judging team. And I think you could have explained a little more data focused, and it was very fast and you were adding all of these different data sets into your model, and it wasn't totally clear to me why you were adding some of them. I think there was one related to tax assessments. It just like flew through this list of data sets. So I think for the layperson, or really for anyone, when you're creating a model, I at least want to understand why each piece is going in there. So I think that would be helpful to add to your presentation. And I wanted to hear a little bit more. You talked about Aunt Bertha, I think, and like what services we're providing. Like this prevention notion is so powerful. What has been successful? What are these models that you're looking at? You like flew through those. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that too. Is that's sort of the answer that you're presenting. It's not just about connecting people to services. It's like, what are these services and what are the services that are actually going to help people improve their lives and not experience homelessness? So anyway, I would have liked to hear a little bit more about that.
We would have loved to talk more about it. I think we technically went over, don't tell anyone, but we would have loved to talk for 10 more minutes about them. I know I'm talking for the whole team that we've done the research on those pieces. We actually weren't able to connect like the financial data that you talked about. That was our suggestion, was to connect that as a proxy for understanding the income levels for 18-year-olds. Teenagers that are at risk of dropping out probably already have jobs and either should be filing taxes or are filing taxes. So plugging in the county tax data would be a way there to understand their financial situations. So on that one, on Bertha, it's a state to become state mandated system that will essentially all services really. So nonprofits won't be technically required, but my understanding is that basically every nonprofit will want to be included there. So any service that you can imagine, right, will be involved in it, and on Bertha, from basic needs to high level specialized services. So we didn't go into those too much because we didn't actually connect to the data yet. That's our suggestion to the county, and the on Bertha part is run by the state, not the county anyways. So if we'd had more time, we definitely would have. It's good feedback though that, because we are focusing on data, that not everyone here has that predictive analytics background.
Well, given time, we are actually at time for this particular session. I just wanted to say, to Team One, that given that, the time that you were provided as part of the Super Analytics Challenge, which is essentially 2-3 weeks, 3, I guess, to delve into this topic, is really commendable in terms of the level of insight you've been able to come up with related to this issue. And we selected this issue because it's a very difficult, complex problem, multifaceted, that involves a tremendous number of entities. Most importantly, the people that are affected by homelessness themselves. So, thank you for coming in. Well done today, and we appreciate your energy and enthusiasm. And we'll see you all at 1 o'clock in 40 minutes for the final award and recognition ceremony.
Before you kick us off, Chris, we wanted to also thank the Katz committee. So you, Chris, Andy, Sarah, Laura, Drew, Sandra, Tori. I think I'm missing 1 or 2 people probably. Thank you guys for all the heavy lifting done. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice day.
All right. So now we're bringing in Team 2, our final team for this final session. Hello, Team 2.
Hello.
I think we have all of you now. So Just wanted to run through and introduce our wonderful panelists, our judging panelists today. We have Lena Andrews, who's the Director of Real Estate Development for Action Housing. We also have Richard Clark, who's the Chief Analytics Officer for Highmark Health. Everyone on the phone knows Andy already. You've been working with Andy for a number of weeks. Andy's Halfhill's the manager for homelessness housing analytics at DHS. And we also have Kim Snyder, who's the principal New Normal of New Normal Advisors. Kim is a Katz grad and also a long-term friend and partner to the Katz Graduate School of Business. So welcome, Team 2. What we'd like for you to do is just briefly introduce yourselves to the judges, your name, your program of study, and then introduce your high impact question and how you've pulled it through that high impact question into the solution focus that you presented on. So yeah, over to you.
I can start off. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Friday, everyone. My name is Gabriella. I am a first-year Management Information Systems and Business Analytics certificate at Katz. So nice meeting you all.
I'll go second. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Alicia. I am a first-year dual MBA in Operations and Marketing.
I'll go third then. Hi, everyone. This is Mundasir. I'm a first-year full-time MBA, Concentration in Marketing and Business Analytics.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chahi Park. I'm in my MS program in Marketing Science and Business Analytics.
Hi, I'm Marcy Davis. I'm a first-year MBA student majoring in Marketing and Business Analytics.
So is there someone on the team that can introduce the high impact question and how it pulls through your solution focus? Spokes first.
Yes, I can do it. So our high impact question is, how can Allegheny County Department of Human Services effectively allocate services to improve housing security for students at risk for homelessness or currently experiencing homelessness? So our solution, we were thinking of a short-term, intermediate term, and long-term solution. For short-term, we want to expand the learning centers and establish communities partnership. For intermediate term, we're thinking of investing in 3D printer in building supplies. And the long term will be actually increasing the availability of permanent and affordability of housing.
Excellent. Thank you, Gabriella. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our judges who will provide you feedback and may ask you some questions. Judges.
Hey guys, great job. Really impressed. Your work. One of education data. I think that was a great plan. You may not know that the Department of Education actually defines homelessness differently than HUD, so that confuses things a bit more. So I think looking at the outcomes for adults and sort of understanding that and then connecting that to how it affects children, such as the number of times that people become homeless or experience substance abuse, I think that was a good connection there. I think my only sort of nitpicky feedback would just be to say that some of the graphs that you use in some of your slides perhaps could be labeled a bit better, I think, going forward, just to kind of make this a little clearer and be able to kind of stand on their own. I guess my first question would just be to understand a bit about the 3D printing and building the housing. I guess I'm curious to understand kind of what your thought was in terms of going there as opposed to considering like local housing stock that might already be available to be able to be rented.
So to start with, oh, sorry. So there are currently the Section 8 housing and traditional homes. That's for low-income or multi-income families, and the rent is pretty affordable, seems to be, but to build those apartment buildings and things, and considering the time to take to build the buildings, we thought the 3D printed affordable housing will be more beneficial in cost and in the time too.
And just to add on to what Chahi said, the real innovation of the 3D printing is the actual material itself that is used for the building supplies. So it's a proprietary concrete mix, and it is much more sustainable. There's zero waste produced when building these houses, and it's stronger than traditional building materials, and it's also more water resistant and resistant to mold. So over the long term, there's very little upkeep that is necessary for these buildings.
I just want to jump in because I spend all my time building affordable housing, and I am all for innovation. I love being creative. And I was interested to read about 3D printing because we haven't really looked into that so much, but I also saw that it hasn't really been proven, at least in the United States. And a lot of the cost from developing new housing is not just the building materials, it's also the site and connecting to sewer and water and electricity. And so I'm not saying that there aren't cost savings that could be found, there definitely might be, but saying that something costs 5% of what it costs is not, I think if you ever see a statistic like that, I would interview someone in development or construction and try to understand if something sounds too good to be true, like it probably is, because the buildings that you're comparing them to are built to exist for 50 or 60 years. And, you know, just printing up a small house and putting it on a lot, who knows, maybe it would last that long, it's possible, but none of that's been proven yet. So I would just add a disclaimer and maybe look at some other kind of construction models. A lot of people were very excited about shipping containers a few years ago, and then they realized that those also were not a great housing method. So I love your creativity, and I like the short, medium, long term, but if you're gonna go all in on 3D printing, I would also like talk to some people in the field. Maybe you did, but you wanna be careful as presenting one thing as the solution to all of our issues, because building new affordable housing is really hard and pretty expensive, and a lot of people put a lot of time into researching ways to make it more effective. So that's my only comment. And I did want to say also, there were, I think did you guys have the personas? Was that in your presentation? I would be a little careful with adjectives that you're using to describe groups of people, especially people who are going through hardship. I thought some of those were negative, and it's not a group I would want to be placed in. So just, I'd be a little careful with that. So that's all.
I think some additional considerations too, thinking about the manufactured housing too, is just, you know, the placement of those houses. Would they be, you know, where is their land available? Would that require the students, the families to move from one school district to another? Is the size, I think they were mentioned as being 600 to 800 square feet. Like, would that be adequate for a family? So yeah, just some additional feedback to maybe consider. I guess the root of my question initially was, sort of why the jump to manufacturing housing as opposed to, you know, there is the assumption on your part that there's not affordable housing available already, maybe like without building something, but local landlords who may have units available, or as opposed to building something. Did you guys explore that at all?
So when we were building our regression models, we found that the subsidized housing and rentals is correlated with an increased likelihood of not attending school regularly, which tied into our entire story of providing students with a safe and stable place to be housed ultimately will set them up for long-term success.
Great, thanks.
I'd like to offer a different view. I thought that The housing study you did was very innovative. Being familiar with the materials that you said was the house was built out of, they will last 30, 40, 50 years. And many times, there's many parts in the cities that, buildings are in just such terrible shape that frankly, it's cheaper to knock them down, demolish them, and put something new in rather than try to renovate these older buildings. So I think that would also address the question with regards to children having to change school districts and things of that nature. I don't know politically or legally how that gets done, but if that could be accomplished, and I'm not an expert on, they are smaller homes, there's no question about that. So the family size would be limited, but at least you're attempting to address, certain part of the homelessness, which are people that are single, or unfortunately in today's world, there's a lot of seniors couples that are on the brink of homelessness. And so I think you're still effectively suggesting something that would help a certain segment of not only existing homeless population, but what could be homeless population in the future.
And you did identify the lack of housing as a problem, which it definitely is. And I think I applaud your trying to find a solution to that, because too much we just say like, oh, we just need to connect people with the right services or whatever, but there's actually not enough housing for everyone. So that piece of it is really spot on.
So something as well, whenever we're talking to where we're going to print these houses, we were doing some research and we saw that the Allegheny County Vacant Property Recovery Program acquires vacant properties and conveys them into applicants who have developed a concrete reuse plan or demonstrated a capacity to implement it. So that was an idea that we were looking as well to how and where to do the 3D printed housing.
I appreciate that you guys chose this topic, and I think it's a really important one in terms of like helping youth to not enter the homeless system and to either break a cycle or just prevent it from happening. It's really important. I guess I'm just curious as like what was probably the most difficult part of this for you, if you have any thoughts on that.
I would say as a whole, we came into this really excited, and we definitely had some ideas of where we wanted to go. Most of us are still fairly new to the world of data analytics. And so there was a bit of difficulty as far as like, how exactly do we want to extract meaning from this data? But fortunately, our coach was able to come in and give us some pointers. We were able to utilize things that we had just recently learned in some of our classes. So I'm really proud with what we were able to present, and we're all excited to continue sharpening our analytics skills. And this was a great, like, being able to apply what we're learning in class.
Great. I would say it did not come across that you were new to analytics, so well done.
Yeah, that's great to hear, and I think it's always best that those are, what you're learning is kind of immediately applied in those ways. So I think that's really tremendous. You had that experience. I think we talked quite a bit here about the housing element. I think you had kind of the academic support was the other dimension. Can you maybe just spend a minute or two on that, just to kind of round out both aspects of the of your proposed solution?
So I can expand on that a little bit. Sorry, I had to get my thoughts straight. So one of the things that we really want to focus on is kind of taking pre-established learning centers and making them inclusive for students of all ages. Through our research, we kind of saw that a lot of the learning centers were tailored more towards elementary school age students. And in my undergrad experience, I worked for one of my capstone projects, I worked with the Homewood CEC, which is their community engagement center. And I saw this really incredible thing that they did where they created more inclusive learning spaces where teachers could come bring their students. They had lab spaces, computer labs, as well as kind of just lecture spaces. And I found that, through the university already having something like that established, how can we replicate that and put that in different neighborhoods of Pittsburgh? Because honestly, it's a great resource. It's great for really bringing together a community that's struggling, especially if they are lower income. So just really focusing on that as more of a short-term goal. We really found a lot of interest in that.
Yeah, thank you.
Any concluding questions or remarks for team member 2 here before we wrap up the session? I'd just like to add that my wife is actually a public school teacher, and at dinner last night we were talking about the challenge, and particularly your presentation. I had reviewed your presentation, and she said to me that this is a very real issue. Students being in the school systems, experiencing homelessness, and she has one student in particular who dropped out of school, but the student appears in school for breakfast and lunch because she's hungry. And I really like that this team focused on this topic, and it's an area that is really heartbreaking when you think about it, that students are in school experiencing homelessness, and then worse, they drop out of the school system, and their future is significantly dimmed as a result of that. So I commend all of you for digging in on this very difficult aspect of the homeless topic, and thank you for applying your energy, enthusiasm, and the work that you put into it. It's not an easy. We call it a challenge for a particular reason. It's not supposed to be an easy topic, right? And this really isn't. So thank you all for jumping in. And we're going to see you at 1 o'clock for the awards and recognition ceremony, right? So yeah, thanks team 2. See you in a short while.
Thank you.
So much.
Chris, are we using
Thank you
the
so
same
much.
link?
Yes, we are. And you can hang out if you want to in this room. What we're going to now do is that we're going to with the judges, we're going to sequester into a breakout room where the judges will spend some time deliberating on what they've heard today. And then in this room is where we'll kick things off for the awards recognition ceremony in 20 minutes from now. So
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again.
So Drew, at this point, if you want to carry us all over, to the breakout room for the judges.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to let everybody know that we're going to take a 20-minute break now before we get into the awards ceremony. So we'll be back on this channel should you want to join us, and we hope you all will. So thanks for coming to the final session. See you soon.
Thank you.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. Hello, RJ. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, going well.
Yeah, we just concluded the final judging session, and Andrei Popkov is one of our who's on the internal organizing committee of recent grad MS. He's calculating the results. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, RJ.
Hi, how are you doing, Amy?
Doing well.
Not good, huh?
It's a busy day. I'm good. I am good. It's just a busy day.
It's not only busy, the wind is making amazing noises around my house.
Chris and I actually came to campus this morning. He's in Mervis, I'm in Alumni Hall, because we both had power outages, flickering, and we said,
I see. That's a good move.
The campus.
Yeah.
I had flickering, but I just sent my remarks to Arjang and Chris, so if I knock off, somebody else can read them.
Yeah. You're flicker proof now, Sarah.
That's exactly right. Diversified. I diversified.
Sarah, hi, Dorothy.
Annie M. It was windy this morning. I only have one tree down so far, so we're good.
Yeah, it was kind of chaotic, I'll be honest, getting to Oakland this morning. There were trees on cars and power lines hissing around, and
oh boy. Oh, we don't want that.
Yeah, I think there was a car right in front of mine that a tree came right down on it. I think I actually ran over a power cord.
We like complex problems, but not natural complexities.
Well, I do recall one of our colleagues yesterday in meeting said we will be without power tomorrow. I was like, oh, there it is. There's the jinx. But thanks for the heads up, though. I mean, I was ready for it. I'll be honest.
It just feels appropriate. We start with a pandemic. Now we have gale force winds.
You're right.
And you know what we're doing? We're continuing on.
And remember last Mother's Day it snowed?
Yeah.
I am.
Welcome to Western Pennsylvania.
I will say though, the good news is that there wasn't, I got in the office and nobody's in the office, and there's no, been on calls, but the Girl Scout cookies that I had in the freezer from a year ago are perfectly fine.
Or so we think.
We might still lose one today yet.
Yeah.
Chris.
No, they will last. That sugar will last a long time. So. All right, I believe we're having people pull in here. We'll just give a final minute.
Will we have more people joining us, or this is pretty much the group?
I think we'll have more students and additional attendees that'll be coming in. I would say,
because I noticed the count is going up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we had the pit wire story go out, so I've been receiving.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll share that with. I could probably put it in the. If somebody could put it in the chat function, that'd be great. So people.
Yes, I can do it. I'll do it.
Yeah, so that just went out. So I literally in the last hour or so, I've received probably 5 emails coming in saying, "Hey, can we join this session?" So.
And we just finished the supply chain symposium.
Great, that was a great lineup.
It really was, yeah.
All right. Well, let's kick it off. We're going to start with Sarah Mueller, our Associate Dean, Professor Sarah Mueller, our Associate Dean for the Katz Graduate School of Business. Sarah, over to you.
Great. Well, welcome to the inaugural Katz School of Business Super Analytics Challenge. As Chris said, I'm Sarah Mueller. I'm the Associate Dean of Graduate and Executive Education. What an exciting event this has been. I got up early this morning and I watched all the presentations, and they came up with some really interesting solutions. And it's a testament to the skill and the passion of our students, our faculty, our staff, and our corporate and community partners. Just as sort of the genesis of this, as I said, it's inaugural. We hope to continue it. About a year ago, Pitt Business, we unveiled our new strategic plan, and it rededicated us to being a leader in the development and execution of integrated learning opportunities for our students, and also creating knowledge, processes, and skills that generate lasting societal value. And the Super Analytics Challenge is an outcome of this vision. By merging the communities of knowledge with the communities of practice to address such an important issue as homelessness, it ignited our students to take knowledge from the classroom and to make connections across and beyond our campus. This experience reinforces, deepens, and internalizes the academic knowledge via the application of the skills and content to address these complex, multifaceted problems and help inform decision-making. In other words, it helps them learn how to use knowledge to lead. So I'll turn it over to Chris to talk more about the challenge and introduce the teams.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. So my name is Chris Barlow. I'm the Director of Corporate Engagement and Career Management here at the Katz Graduate School of Business. And we're going to be today recognizing not only our community partners and the winning team for this first ever Super Analytics Challenge, but importantly, those that have made the challenge possible. And that starts with our students. And what I would like to do is what I will do here is walk through all of our teams. I'm going to introduce the students on those teams, who are their executive coaches supporting those teams, and then summarize their solutions that they brought forward through this challenge. So on team number one, we had Matt Abramson, Yifeng Jun, Gianna Dantati, Avinash Madikonda, and Chun Zhao. And their executive coach was Kern Katz, who is the Director of Data Science and Research and Development for Highmark Health. And the proposed solution that they came up with was how to look at demand and reduce demand. And they created models that provided insights to create a roadmap for the county to do just that. So they really took what Richard Clark from Highmark said, applying lateral thinking to come up with a different way to examine and solve for this issue of homelessness. So thank you, team one. Well done, team one. On team two, we had Manasir Chowdhury, Marcy Davis, Justin Alicia, Chahi Park, and Gabriela Resende. And they were supported by Michael Hamilton, who's an assistant professor at the Katz Graduate School of Business. And what this team did is that they looked at how to provide students experiencing housing insecurity with additional academic resources at learning centers. And they also looked at how to provide different affordable sustaining housing methods and projects. So they looked at 3D printed permanent housing, something that's being done in Los Angeles today, and introduce that as a mechanism to be able to build and introduce new, more affordable housing units. So very innovative, great job, team two. Thank you for those ideas. On team three, we had John Zopko, Jacob Bowles, Utsing Kwan, and Zohui Wang. And this team was supported by an executive coach, Bharat Dash, who's a senior technical project manager for SDLC Partners. And I'd just like to call out SDLC partners, as this has been a group that has supported for many years business analytics development here at the Katz Graduate School of Business. And Bharat has been a close partner to the Katz Graduate School of Business, offering his time and his coaching for our students for some time now. So thank you to Bharat and SDLC partners for being a long-term partner. Team 3 looking at increasing efficiency of 3 phases of rapid rehousing to help individuals permanently exit homelessness in a cost-effective manner. So they really pinpointed that process of rapid rehousing as an area of intervention. Thank you, Team 3, for those really terrific ideas and that outside the box thinking. On Team 4, we had Aaron Kuss, Ankita Chauhan, Alyssa McCose, Hassan Reddy, and Chun Karajam. Their executive coach was a gentleman from SAP, Sunil Shah, who's a senior analyst architect at SAP. And this team looked at using a solution, what they created and called the ORB, which stands for Optimize Existing Resources Better. And this is a model that predicts, it's an algorithm predicting and anticipating what support resources are most optimal for an individual. And I'd like to commend this team too, because it was very obvious, and they've created sort of counter chatter on LinkedIn, commending each other for their teamwork and their ability to collaborate through this pretty tight challenge. I mean, this challenge timeline was a mere really 3 weeks. They also expressed special thanks to Sunil and Felipe, who has supported from SAP their project and gave them additional insights. So well done, Team 4. And finally, we had Team 5. And this consisted of Rebecca Farabaugh, Carlos Gill, Tianyang Xie, and Xingyu Li. And their executive coach was Barry Martz, who's a senior director of analytics in the health plan unit of UPMC. And the solution they looked at was delivering services in high need areas and tracking access to basic needs that DHS, Department of Human Services, Allegheny County, can then support, predict, and improve rates of transition to stable housing. And again, this team provided a lot of chatter and across LinkedIn, recognizing their teammates, the dedication of their various teammates in different time zones that should be added, and how they have learned from each other, and they were able to come together and sort of improve from the different skill sets that they had as a team. So, you know, in summary, in recognizing our students here on this call, you know, I really consider all of you are stars, and you were selected from a large pool of graduate students at the University of Pittsburgh. And I consider you to be stars because you're strategic, you're tactical, you're analytical, and you're resourceful. That's why I believe you are stars, and you demonstrated this through this challenge. And I commend all of you for your time, your energy, the application of your talents for this first ever Super Analytics Challenge. You know, you are really the star that has made this analytics competition, this challenge possible. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Andy Hanna. Andy is the chairman of Thought, which is a predictive analytics business, but Andy's also an adjunct professor at Pitt Business, and he's been an organizer of this challenge. So Andy, over to you. I understand you're going to recognize community involvement.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chris. First of all, I want to say congratulations to all the teams and to the students. I, like Sarah, woke up this morning, and for an analytics nerd like me, what I look forward to even before I grab my coffee was to start watching the videos. And I just loved them. And I think a lot of great ideas came out of it, a lot of creativity. So thank you for all your hard work. I'd also like to thank my colleagues at Katz. First of all, of course, Dean Assad and Associate Dean Mueller for supporting what we're doing, but my partner in crime, Chris Barlow, who really was the energy and the drive behind this, and Sandra Douglas for being the spark and a continual light for us to follow. And of course, all the supporting staff at Katz just did an amazing job, so thank you. It's hard to believe it's been 10 months since we started planning this, and with these amazing outcomes don't just happen. You need to have a community around efforts like this. And we are so blessed at the Katz School, as well as around this challenge, to have the community embrace the idea and really put their shoulder into this challenge. And so I'm going to recognize a number of contributors. First off, I want to recognize what we call educators, and these are the instructors who held sessions prior to the challenge starting. So Sandra Douglas, who's the Director of Strategic Initiatives, Bharat Dash at SDLC, as Chris had mentioned, Clay Green, who's the CEO of Tech Blue, also an entrepreneur in residence at Pitt, Michael Hamilton, who's an associate professor here, along with Leon Valdez, who's also an associate professor. So thank you to all of you for putting your time into those pre-challenge sessions. Chris, if you could go to the next one, please. Next, we'd like to recognize what we'll call community partners. And one of the things that we realized as we were developing the challenge is that we needed to have experts. We needed to have experts who understood the subject matter, because we were challenging our students with a subject that they may not have known a lot about. So we wanted to put those resources in front of them. We also knew that we were challenging them to think differently about how to frame the problem and come to solutions. So we put what we call method experts behind that. So our subject matter experts, Dan Lavallee, who's the Director of Social Impact at UPMC Health Plan, Joni Schwager, who's the Executive Director at Staunton Farm Foundation, Brian Knight, the Community Engagement Manager at the Homeless Children's Educational Fund. Thank you for your efforts. Our methods experts, Felipe Malouge, who's a Senior Technical Support Specialist at SAP, Rebecca Shore, Senior Research Statistician, Care Analytics at Highmark, and Kelly Shields, who's a PhD and Senior Research Data Scientist at Highmark. So these individuals put their time into not only presenting to our students, but also having office hours for them to visit. So thank you for your contributions and your efforts. Okay, Chris, if we can go to the next one. And of course, our judges and our advisory committee, which I'll talk about in a second, were judges for this, but we also brought in additional judges for the challenge. So thank you to Jane Downing, who's a senior program officer at the Pittsburgh Foundation, Nick Cotter, data analyst at the Allegheny County Department of Human Services, Christine Kretz, who's a VP of Programs and Partnerships at the International Space Station, Katie Collins, Chief Analytics Strategy at Allegheny County DHS, and Kim Snyder, Principal at New Normal Advisor, who has also been a wonderful supporter of some of our entrepreneurship programs at Katz and CBA. So thank you, Kim. So thanks to those judges. And finally, well, actually not finally, one other one. But next, I'd like to recognize our advisory committee. And I have to tell you, I've been involved with a lot of initiatives that are similar to this, not quite the same, but I've never experienced sort of the immediate gelling of a group to help push this opportunity forward. And the people that you see on the screen here have been working since September to put this challenge together. So thank you to Pamela Peel, Chief Analytics Officer at UPMC Health Plan and UPMC Enterprises, Andy Halfhill, Manager of Homeless and Housing Analytics at the Allegheny County Department of Human Services, Richard Clark, Chief Analytics Officer at Highmark Health, Albert Powell, who's the Managing Director of Digital and Data Analytics at Accenture, Manpreet Saini, who's a practice head in analytics and insights in North America for SAP. Audrey Russo, who's the CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council, and also Jack Peterson, who's the Director of Strategic Relations at the National Association of Counties. Huge thank you. And it was a privilege to chair this committee, and just thank you for all your hard work. Chris had already mentioned we had also coaches for each individual team. Thank you to them. And finally, huge thank you to the Department of Human Services at Allegheny County. And now it's my privilege to turn it over to one of our advisory committee members at ACDHS, which is Andy Halfhill. And also thank you, of course, to Cynthia Shields for the efforts that she has put in as well. So Andy, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'm so thankful to each of the teams and all the staff for all your hard work and innovation. It's hard to believe this is over already, even though it's been months in the work. So yeah, I just want to thank you all so much for your hard work. I was so impressed by what you were able to achieve in just a few short weeks, knowing that most of you or all of you are working remotely. Some of you are working various places around the globe. For you to come together as a team, 5 teams, and work together and come up with these solutions is so impressive. I've been working with this data and with these types of programs for about 12 years now, and know just the learning curve, the big learning curve that it is to understand this data and all the nuance that is included. So I was just personally so impressed with how quickly you're able to gain understanding of the programs and the data, and develop these models and solutions so quickly. So I have to admit, when I was first asked about this, I was a bit skeptical that it could have much impact. And it's not because of anything about Katz or the teams, but just knowing how complex the data is, and that we have staff that work on this every day and working to find these solutions. So, but after getting involved and meeting you all and that, I thought, we have to, you get smart people in the room and give them the opportunity to dig into the data and be creative and innovative and kind of look at this problem from a different perspective than those of us who are looking at it every day. The good things would happen, and not surprised that that's exactly what happened. So yeah, want to also say that the use of analytics like this, sort of advanced analytics and machine learning and modeling, these tools have been used in the private sector for some time, but are relatively newer to being used in the public sector, and specifically with human services. So, there's not a lot of communities. Allegheny County is pretty unique in having such integrated data and being able to do this work. So I just want to challenge you and encourage you that, if this challenge sort of scratched an itch for you in terms of thinking about using analytics for social good, I would encourage you to continue to consider that in terms of career paths. So thank you again for your hard work, and I know it was a sacrifice of time and effort. So just thank you so much for that. And I wanted to turn it over now to just for a minute to Cynthia Shields, who oversees all of our homeless programming at DHS, if she wanted to say a few words as well.
Thank you, Andy. I do just want to say thank you to Pitt and all of the people that have supported this for selecting homelessness as the first cause that you're looking to support through this project. I have been following the progress closely, and last night I spent a few hours watching the presentations and the videos, and I am just so incredibly impressed and grateful for the passion and the time and effort that everyone put into making this project useful. At DHS, we serve with our partners thousands of people every year that are experiencing homelessness, and our goal is to prevent homelessness whenever possible. And if homelessness does have to happen, we want it to be rare, brief, and non-recurring. So we don't want people to have to go through this again. And all of the efforts that you've put in today will help us to move a little bit closer as a community. And just on that community piece, I know there are lots of students who come to Pitt from other places, and I hope now that you've had a chance to explore Pittsburgh and you've had a chance to make some friends at the Department of Human Services and within the community, that this encourages you to stay around Pittsburgh and keep present in this work. Even when you go into non-human service areas, we are always looking for advisory board members and community support, so you can continue to engage with DHS and our systems throughout the rest of your career. But I do hope that you make it in Pittsburgh, so thank you for doing this.
So thank you, Cynthia and Andy, for your words and also your collaboration on this challenge. It's a new form of initiative. This academic to government to corporate to NGO sort of challenge, and many organizations would not have taken the time out to collaborate at this high of a level with an academic university partner such as Pitt, and you've certainly done that, and I think there's tremendous value and lessons learned from that. And we'll continue to examine, different ways that we can partner together. So thank you, Andy and Cynthia. At this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Dean Arjang Assad. Dean Assad is the Dean of the Katz Graduate School of Business. And Dean Assad is going to introduce the 2021 winner. Dean Assad.
Thank you, Chris, very much. And good afternoon to everybody. And thank you, everybody, for joining us in Katz's first ever Super Analytics Challenge, which, we just have heard from the students, and it's my pleasure to move on to the recognition ceremony and announce the awardee. Before I do that, I want to make a couple of comments on the Super Analytics Challenge, maybe from the school-wide perspective. This was as you've already heard, designed to address a complex issue of homelessness in the Pittsburgh community. So I think both of those words are operative here. First, complexity. We want our students to be able to deal with complexity. Second, community. Community is something that we care about, and we'd like our students, all of them, to be also taking an interest in the community, just as our chancellor has committed that the university as a whole needs to take an interest in its community as a major university in the area. So this would not have been possible without, of course, the direct participation of the Allegheny County Department of Human Services that helped us in running this 1 week long hackathon style competition, which allowed our students to do three important things. One, work as a team to frame up the problem. Second, created a data methodology. After all, it is an analytics contest. And finally, generate an operable solution. And the operable is also an important part of our evaluation. We know many factors contribute to homelessness: physical and mental health, affordable housing supply, economic conditions, the intersection of the judicial system, and many other factors that make the problem complex. So we want our students to actually bring business skills and analytics skills to this kind of a complex problem. We know of many analytics involvements which look at somewhat more structured, more well-defined problems in industry, in marketing, for example, and similar fields. But this, I think the complexity is what intrigues me most in this exercise, and I hope contributes to our students, plus the fact that they're working alongside experts who have domain area knowledge, which is about the topic of homelessness or the community. All of these elements that I mentioned go together to define what we call integrated learning. That's what we really like to accomplish in our Katz programs, integrated learning. So to everybody who made this a possible for us. Really, thank you. A big thank you. You were able to give us this, our students, this experience in integrated learning in a very important and purposeful context, which is that of homelessness. So again, repeating my thanks to our career management and corporate engagement team, our graduate programs team, participating faculty, executives in residence, and staff, very much to the coaches, subject matter experts, and judges who helped us out, and our corporate partners and advisory committee. Heading the advisory committee was Hanna, who is also a very valued member of my board of visitors. So thank you, Andy. And of course, once again, repeating my thanks to the Allegheny Department of Human Services for bringing this challenge really to life for our students. I also need to thank all the students who participated and really put their all into this. Without you, this would not be the kind of experience that we're aiming for. So thanks for giving it your all. And Chris, you want me to announce the winner right now?
Yes, please do so.
I'm very pleased to announce that the winner of the Super Analytics competition is Team 5. And it's back to you now, Chris.
Yeah, so special applause for Team 5. Again, they put through a solution that looks at improving rates of transition to stable housing. Something that we're doing as part of the Super Analytics Challenge is that we're actually connecting it with our Bridge program, and our Bridge program is an opportunity to fund projects. So we're offering the winner of the Super Analytics Challenge Team 5 the opportunity to receive a fellowship to apply your ideas into a practical implementation strategy. And we'll be working through that with the Allegheny County Department of Human Services, and we'll be sharing more about that in the near future. We are also in discussions with Allegheny County Department of Human Services about how to take additional ideas that have come out through all of these teams and then how to add more oomph, more impact through funding them in the Bridge program, which we will then open up for application for not only our STARS, part of the Super Analytics Challenge, but Katz graduate students beyond this challenge to help implement. So this is a pull-through factor that we've designed so that we can have even more impact. And I think, I would like to applaud Accenture as well, because Accenture has put forward additional funding for the Bridge program so that we can help implement these ideas into the future. And again, what we are looking to do from Katz Graduate School of Business is to be able to have our students catalyze change and make an impact across humanity, and do that through integrated learning. So with that, we conclude the 2021 Super Analytics Challenge. We will be producing an impact report with the Pittsburgh Technology Council. So while we are done today, we will be continuing on and demonstrating the impact that this form of community-based partnership, this form of integrated learning can have broadly across our community. We'd like to finish up though, however, with sharing a song and video that's familiar to all of us here at Katz. And I think we're gonna